Good morning. I'm back. Day two. Yesterday was good. I like this. So I was thinking yesterday. Took my wife out. We go for drives in the Colorado mountains quite often. I love to do that. I love to spend time with my wife. I want to tell you, nobody in your life, not your mother, not your best friend, not your sibling, nobody wants to see you succeed more than your spouse and your immediate family. My wife and kids are in my corner all the time. I love them. They support me, and what more could I ask for, right? So we were out talking a little bit, and I was telling, I have this on my desk, and this is an hourglass, just an hourglass with sand in it. And we had never really talked about why I always have an hourglass on my desk, but I just always do, because it reminds me of some really important things that I need to keep in mind. So when I was 16 years old, I was in a really bad car accident. I guess to tell the story, a friend of mine and I had left school. We snuck out over lunch to get home. I was into bodybuilding and fitness and, making my body strong. And so was eating a special diet, and every day I would go home and get a meal or whatever if I didn't happen to bring one. Excuse me. If I didn't happen to bring one with me to school to eat. I was on that special diet. I was full of egos, 16 years old. You know how that goes. So we left school, got out on the main road, driving down the road, and a construction truck, one of those big dump trucks, the big construction trucks, crossed the center line and hit us driver's side. And actually, the impact of the accident was so forceful and powerful that the steering wheel of the pickup truck, we were in a small pickup truck that I had owned when I was 16. The steering wheel was actually bent to the shape of my body, my rib cage, and my chest. That's one thing that always kind of stood out to me. And it took two sets of the jaws of life to get this truck wrapped, that was wrapped around me, to get this truck off me. And engine rods from the engine had come and pierced my glute, my bottom, and had gone through my leg and my knee as well. The next day, life flighted me to the hospital. The next morning, they had repaired a broken wrist that I had, but the weird thing is that the wrist was so broken they flew in a doctor from another city to do the surgery because it was so specialized. And I was never supposed to use this hand again, ever. They said I never would. So they had me in an elbow cast, and this hand was completely immobilized. I couldn't use it at all. They were waiting for it to heal, and then at that time, after it healed, then we'd know, right? They'd take the cast off, and we'd figure it out. Well, we all know I can use this hand, right? So the next morning I'm up, I have my elbow cast, and I'm walking around, and I think I'm hot stuff, and I was in this accident, and I'm telling people the story, and people are asking me questions, and just staff at the hospital, right, and my family. I don't really remember much about that. I do know that the next moment at a specific moment, I told my mom, "You need to get the doctor. There's something wrong with me. I'm not okay." And I collapsed on the bed. They ran me down for tests. My vital signs were dropping and so on and so forth. So they ran me down for tests. And what they had found is that I had torn my right carotid artery. A golf ball sized blood clot had formed there. The inner lining of the artery kind of folded over and blood was pooling and had formed a massive blood clot. Chunks of that blood clot were breaking off, going up into my brain and slowly blocking different areas of my brain and shutting me down, basically. After they had identified what the issue was, they took me to the ICU, and the surgery was not something that could be done in this case. They couldn't do an emergency surgery. I don't know why. I was just told they couldn't do an emergency surgery. And the blood clots continued to break off. I think I was on blood thinners or something. But the prognosis was really bad. They had basically told my mom that, it's going to be a life support situation. I did eventually die on March 3rd of 1992. I was the longest clinically documented death case in America. The reason that it was clinically documented is I was in the ICU. They had the EEG hooked up to my mind, to my head, and they had the EKG hooked up to my chest. So they could tell that my heart had stopped and brain activity had stopped for over 30 minutes. And I don't know if my mother was going to sign the do not resuscitate, or I guess she did. They let me go. The doctors had said that the brain damage was so extensive that that my brain could no longer do things like breathing, etc., so on and so forth. So they didn't do life support, and so I died. And I guess what had happened is the nurse came in to check something on me or to do something on me after 30 minutes had passed. And when she leaned over, I had that elbow cast on, and I started hitting her with my cast, and it freaked her out. She was like, "Oh my God." And it's so funny because I used to go up to the hospital all the time, and I would, after for checkups and things like that, later down the road, and I would see that nurse, and we always had a little joke between us, it freaked her out. She went and got doctors. Now, I remember being let go and coming back to my body. I do remember that. And I'm going to tell the story about my out-of-body experience. I don't want to focus on that today, but I just want to tell you a little bit about me, why I am the way I am, and why I feel the way I do. And I'm so passionate about helping people to do better and to step up into a greater life and a greater existence. So the reason that, or back on track, I guess. So I do remember coming back, and I'll never forget the chaos. There were doctors sticking me with needles and people doing all this stuff, and they took me down after they had stabilized me, and I came back and I was fine. I was breathing on my own and so on, steady pulse. They took me down for other tests, and the CAT scan or the MRI that they did showed that a completely different image of my brain, pre-out-of-body experience or pre-death. The blood clot was still there, but it had minimized, and they say that's probably because of the blood thinners, I assume, or that's what they told me. I'm not a medical professional. I'm married to one, but I'm not a doctor, so if I'm getting anything wrong, please don't hold me accountable in the comments, okay? I'm doing the best I can telling my life story here. So so the image that they got of my brain after I had died was different. The damage that they saw before wasn't there. Before, it actually had changed for some reason, which is something that nobody's ever been able to explain. In fact, at the time, I had a lot of questions. My mom had a lot of questions. Just my mom. My dad passed away when I was 10 years old. He was killed in a construction accident. So I grew up in a single-parent household with just a mom. And we all had questions. How did this change? What had happened? Is this a miracle? I'm not super religious, so that's not the road I was necessarily going down. What had happened? Nobody can answer that question. So I still had effects from the stroke. The left side, it was as if you cut my body completely in half. The left side was completely paralyzed. And the right side, well, I could move my shoulder, but remember, I couldn't. This was all immobilized. And so I just lay there in a hospital bed for quite some time. And I got my thoughts, and I'm 16 years old. And boy, I was hot before, but now I had been humbled, right? I'm laying in a hospital bed. I can't use this arm for much. Can't use the left side at all. Left leg, left arm, totally paralyzed. Won't move. Hand won't move, nothing. It's totally dead. And I thought my world was over. I thought my life was completely over. I mean, what could I do? You're a kid, it's traumatic. And so I'm also told that at this point in time, as I'm laying there, I'm talking to doctors, and my mom and folks are letting me know that this still needs to be fixed and repaired, because I still have a clot here, so I'm constantly on blood thinners, right? And I have an aneurysm in my innominate artery that's paper thin, and it could rupture at any time. So I'm thinking to myself, wow, I've already gone through this accident, all this pain, all this crazy stuff with doctors. Now I'm laying in a hospital bed, and I'm just gonna die? I mean, again? What would I come back for, I mean, for more torture? I gotta be tortured a second time, right? And the doctor that was going to do the surgery, his name was John Edwards, and he was a Harvard graduate, handsome guy. He's one of those Ivy League guys, he was handsome, he was smart, top of his class, he was the best at what it is that he does, and he was the guy that was going to do these surgeries, and I spent a lot of time with him. He gave me some facts that terrified me. He said, listen, when we open up your chest, there's a 30% chance that aneurysm is not going to rupture. We're going to have enough time to get in there, fix that, and before anything, before you die, I guess. I don't know how you really explain that to somebody. It was an uncomfortable conversation, right? So I have this aneurysm, I'm dealing with that, plus I have this blood clot here. It's funny, it wasn't funny, actually. I just, I had some time to think about things as a 16-year-old boy that I don't think other 16-year-old people get to think about, and it changed me, and I think it made me a better person down the road, and I'll tell you why. So I had 2 weeks before the surgery was going to happen. They were doing different things to me, and had me on different medicines, and they wanted certain things to happen and for me to be at a certain place before they actually opened me up and did the surgery. Now, I was scheduled to be one of the first people in the history of the United States to receive synthetic arterial grafts. So they were going to take this synthetic graft, it's like a synthetic tube, and replace the damaged part of the artery in my chest and also in my neck with. And what I was told is that someday when I die, if you were to dig me up, it would just be dust and these two little synthetic grafts. And I thought, hey, I'm on the forefront. I'm going to help people. This is great. Otherwise, I was healthy, other than these few things that had happened. So the time that I had between the surgery and I'll get back on track here. So I said I had 2 weeks between the actual surgery and when I was told what they were going to do. I had this number in my head, 30%, and I'm planning to die. The odds aren't in my favor, right? So I remember being in a wheelchair, and they would roll me down to the end of the hallway, and there was a big window there at the end of the hallway, like a big window, and I could see out into the street, and I could see some grass and houses. And I sat there for about a week and planned to die. And when you're a 16-year-old kid, you don't understand life very well. You don't understand things very well. People left me alone for the most part. I don't think my mother knew how to help me. Nobody really seemed to know what to do for me. And this doctor, he came and he sat with me one day and he said, what are you thinking here? Why are you planning for the negative? It seems like we always plan. We always, I'm not going to do this because of this, or I'm not going to do that because of that, and he was trying to get into my head, and he's like, what are you thinking? And I told him, I said, you got a 30% chance that I'm going to survive this surgery, plus you've got to do this surgery in my neck. I don't know what the odds are of that, but I don't feel like I have a chance. I'm totally paralyzed on the left side of my body. I couldn't use this arm for nothing. I couldn't even wheel myself around. I was completely terrified. So, he said, we've got to be positive. And he was very positive, man. He's an Ivy League guy, right? So he's got all this stuff going for him. He obviously had money. He dressed nice. He was well-spoken. And I was super impressed with this guy. And he convinced me, hey, there's a chance here. So up until before the surgery, I remember it was 4 or 5 days before the actual surgery took place, they wheeled me down for some additional tests. And they had me in a wheelchair, and they used to put a belt, along my, to hold me up in the chair. And I started to slip, and I started to slide down in the chair, and I don't know if if they just cleaned it or what, but, I'm all skinny, and I'm just sliding down in the chair, and that belt's coming up higher and higher, and I'm trying to get people's attention as they're walking by, but nobody was paying attention to me. Doctors would walk by, nurses would walk by, and I just kept sliding down further and further. And that belt came up to about right here, where it was right under my neck, and my arms were up, and I was trying to get people's attention. I started to cry. I was so upset. Nobody was going to help me. Nobody was helping me. People were just walking by, and the nurse finally did come back and lifted me up and pulled me up. But right then and there, I decided I wasn't going to wait for anybody to help me moving forward. I knew that in the situation that I was in, I was going to have to step up and make a decision. Either I was going to make the best of this and move this forward and be positive and work with the doctors and work with the people around me to try to find some success, or was I just going to be the guy that sits in the wheelchair and just lets happen whatever happens? And I just decided I'm not doing that. I am not doing that. And I got a strength that day that I still remember, and I still have that strength inside. And, that was a pivotal moment in my life. People ask you, when was it that you decided you were going to open businesses, Doug, and you were going to be, do what you do today? And I'll tell you when I decided. It was that day when I was sitting in that damn wheelchair with that belt coming up to my neck and everybody walking by and nobody helping me. And I decided I'm going to help myself. And so I did. I changed my attitude and I moved things forward. I remember going in for surgery. I believed in that doctor. He was just the greatest guy. John would come in and talk to me and share inspiration, and he was going to do my surgery. I had to trust him, and I did. So the surgery took 9 hours. It was successful. They opened me up. I think that the fear is that when they cut me open, if it would take them longer to crack my sternum to get to where the aneurysm was, I would bleed out if it were to pop. They wouldn't be able to get to it quick enough. I was fortunate. They were able to crack my chest, get me all fixed up, get that replaced. I have a synthetic graft here in my neck, and I have an awesome war scar from my battle, from behind my ear all the way down to my chest. And so battle won. So I get past that, but I'm still paralyzed on the left side of my body, and I've got all these doctors telling me I'm not going to walk again. It was the damage in my brain after post-death. I told you it had changed. Well, they said it was as if the finger of God, that's what they said, or somebody had taken a pencil and with the eraser part had just touched the part of my brain that controls motor function on the left-hand side. It was almost like a specifically designed point of change in my brain that caused my left side to not work anymore. And they had bought an electric wheelchair for me, and I was going to spend the rest of my life in a wheelchair. But, I had John talking to me, and the doctor was giving me more and more inspiration. He was building me up, helping me to believe that, hey, we've already gotten through these surgeries and we did that and there was a 30% chance. You know, at that point in time, you're kind of joking around about, I remember sitting down at the end of the hallway for 2 weeks thinking, I'm going to die. I've already died once, and so I wasn't as afraid. I had already been dead. I had an out-of-body experience. Where I met my father. Like I said, he had died when I was 10. And I wasn't afraid to die, but I didn't want to die. That's the whole thing. I'm only 16. I got this great life ahead of me. I wanted to live. I wanted to have a life. I didn't want to be handicapped and all that, right? So, so, I was going to fight. And I remember having a dream where I saw my dad one night, and I had been laying in bed, in a hospital bed for several days, or sitting in my wheelchair for several days, you know, and you get tired of being in a damn wheelchair. The worst part for me about being in a wheelchair is I'm 16 years old, I have ego, and I have somebody taking me out of my wheelchair and setting me up, propping me up on the toilet. And I could never do that. I'm not the guy that could invite his friends into the restroom and we have a conversation, you know, while things are happening. I'm not that guy. I'm a private guy. I need privacy. And that just drove me nuts. And I thought, I'm going to live the rest of my life like this. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but I wanted something different for me. So I was going to fight. I wasn't going to accept my current circumstance. I was going to try to change things. And I had some people around me that were trying to help me to change those things. And I knew I just knew that I had to accept their help. And so I did. I had laid in bed, as I had said, for several days, and I'm thinking about what can I do about being paralyzed. And my story was on the news. Julius Irving, Dr. J, was flying through the local airport, and he saw my story on the news. He canceled his flight, and he came up to the hospital to see me. And I'm not a big basketball fan. I didn't follow the NBA. I know about basketball. I know the team names and all that. And I know who he was. And he just came up to the hospital, you know, and he sat down next to the hospital bed and he tried to encourage me. And he was a great man. I mean, he really changed some things in my mind and gave me some lessons that I'll never forget. You know, he said, thoughts become things. You sit here and you think you're going to be paralyzed for the rest of your life. That's exactly what's going to happen. But you can change things by changing what's in your mind. And I just started being more positive about it and thinking about things. But Dr. J spent most of the afternoon with me. They had gotten rid of the elbow cast and had just put a forearm cast on at that point in time. And it was kind of cool because I had just gotten that cast that morning. And he signed it, and I wouldn't let anybody else sign it. I just wanted that. And it's funny because I kept that cast for over a year after I got out of the hospital and things worked out. And I remember it being in my drawer and my mom coming in one day and saying, that thing stinks, you need to get rid of it. And I think we did I don't have any idea where it is now, so I assume we threw it away. But again, somebody else came into my life that was willing to help me, offered me the right advice that I needed at the right time. And you know what? I think maybe you and I are here right now, and this is maybe a story, or I might have some advice that could help to change your life. And so I laid in the hospital bed. They tried to do therapy for me, and I just didn't respond. The left side of my body was dead. I had a dream one night after Dr. J had come and visit where I saw my dad. And he told me, Doug, if you can walk again, you just got to try, son. And so I did. It's really weird how people just come to your aid. I had a shop teacher at my local high school, he built an apparatus that was like a horseshoe design, and it would come up to my chest and go under my arms, and it would hold me up. So they'd get me into that, and it went around my body, and there were wheels on it, and I could just kind of rest my body weight in the horseshoe, and I could move my right leg. So I would move my right leg, and then I would drag the left through, and I did that for a while, as long as I could. It was painful if you've ever used crutches, if you put any sort of weight under your arms for an extended period of time, it hurts. So, after weeks and weeks of trying, the left side of my body started to get responsive, and I can't explain it, and neither can doctors. I was supposed to be in an electric wheelchair for the rest of my life, but every single day I showed up. I was there in the morning, and first thing, and they would get me into that harness, and I had some electronic stimulation too. They did a little bit of that, but for the most part, I just willed it, and I wasn't going to give up. I was not going to give up, and that's the one thing that I hold deep in my heart is I don't quit, and I'm not going to give up. Now you can make me quit by, I just don't quit, and so after several months of therapy, I walked out of the hospital, and I left that wheelchair behind. Now my left arm, I can't really do much with that still, and it's been how many years? It's been 31 years. I'm 47 years old. Since that happened, I've kind of accepted that where I'm at is where I'm at, and people see me out in public, and yeah, I'm limping around, and I joke around about it quite a bit, but you know what, I can walk, and I'll tell you what, walking around is a hell of a lot better than sitting in that wheelchair, which I did for over 6 months, and it was horrible. So that's the reason why I keep the hourglass with me, because it reminds me of the time I have left and everything that's already happened to me. And I know that with the sand I have in the top of my hourglass, and nobody knows how much time they have. My hourglass could have hardly any sand in the top, or I could be around for another 40 years. I mean, nobody knows how much time they have. But the one thing that I can control is what's going on in my head and what I do with the remaining sand that I have. And the hourglass reminds me of that. And I think that's really important to understand. It's not what happens to you in life. You can do anything. Do you know this? I've learned the smartest doctors and scientists, they have absolutely no idea what it is we're capable of. And they don't even understand this, which is our most powerful instrument. This is a supercomputer, and anything you put into this, you'll get the results that you put in. You put positive thoughts and you be positive and you focus on great outcomes, guess what you're going to get? Positive outcomes, great outcomes. You get negative and you let yourself go down, and guess what happens? You get negative results. And I truly, truly, truly believe that. We have amazing potential within us. Tons of energy, tons of potential. I remember Dr. John told me one time, he said, Doug, if the brain were so simple that we could understand it, we would be so simple that we could not. And I think that made perfect sense to me. You're absolutely correct. So that was my experience. It was not the best, but here I am today. I'm up walking around, and because of the internal injuries that I had, it really wasn't uncommon for doctors around me to talk about a short life. And I wasn't actually supposed to live beyond the age of 30. Nobody thought I would still be here. I'm 47 years old. I didn't plan to be here in my 40s. I planned on having a short life. Yeah, I'd overcome some things, but you always have that little bit of doubt. I never thought I would be married, never thought I would have kids. I married the girl of my dreams, and I have two beautiful daughters I have a 13-year-old. She's dual enrolled in high school and in college at the same time. I have another daughter that's artistic and just amazing. She has an incredible intellect and ability for storytelling. She writes novels and short stories. She's just truly amazing. And my wife is, she takes care of me, loves me, and she homeschools our children. She helps out with our organization. She's the CEO of our company. I work for her, and I just love it. It's the best life ever. So I just wanted to tell that story because I wanted you to kind of understand where it is I'm coming from, what I've been through, and why I am the way I am today. I just want to help people. I don't do anything in my life for profit anymore. I don't do anything to make money. Every cent we make, I give it to charity. I give, for the work that I personally do. I give all that money to charity. I don't want to earn another dollar. All I want to do is utilize whatever time I have left to help people. So I'm involved in all kinds of projects. I've worked with presidents, governors, business executives all over the world, and helping them to achieve their goals for different projects and programs they're running. The only point that I make is that those projects that I'm a part of have to benefit humanity in some way. People must benefit in some way from the effort that I put in order for me to be involved. I'm not interested in helping a software company make $1 million. I'm not interested in selling some product or doing something like that. I just want to help people. And so that's what I spend my time doing. I'm very, very intelligent with technology. I've done some things in the technology space that have changed the way multiple verticals function. Healthcare claims processing, I changed that vertical completely in the United States. And I've worked on projects and programs that I never believed that somebody like me could be a part of. And we've had some incredible success. And I love working with people and helping people to be better. And my goal is that everything that I'm involved with when I'm working with people, they're better for being involved with what it is that we were doing. I hope that being in these 30 days of videos that we're doing, I hope you'll get to know me better, and I'll tell you some more stories about myself and about how we've achieved some different things and how I approach life, and I hope you benefit from that. But I've overcome some things in my life that have turned me into who I am today. There's a lot of things I don't tolerate as a result of my experiences. One of them is quitting. The other is a negative attitude. I don't work with anybody. I don't want to be around anybody that talks about how things can't be done. I want to tell you something. And my daughter actually taught me this lesson, but it's 100% the truth. You sit around and you get into a meeting, maybe you're at work or talking to other people, and when you start talking about how things can't get done, that's the result you're going to get. You're not going to get it done. But if you approach life, work, or anything with a positive attitude, and with an attitude where you only talk about how things can be done, guess what? You're going to get how things can be done results, because that's all you're focusing on. So you got to get those negative thoughts out of your head. You got to be positive. I showed up again yesterday. I was so nervous about being on camera and talking about my story. And, I worry about things too. It's like, hey, Doug, you've had this success. You've worked with all these people. You should have the confidence to easily just step in here and get on camera. Well, guess what? I worry what people might think of my looks or my appearance. Some people look at the level of success that I've achieved and they have a certain expectation of what that should look like. They're not expecting a hockey jersey and a handicapped guy limping around. I can't tell you how many times I've gone into a room full of people to talk with them and their jaws drop on the floor. And I've been told several times, it's just not what we expected. Oh, well, okay, I understand. But I'm telling you that it doesn't matter if you have a disability. It doesn't matter where you come from. I came from a household where my mother was 100% negative, and she believed nothing could be done. So I've got that in my corner, plus all the medical history. And, I have plenty of reason to be negative, to be angry. But I have turned that around, and I'm positive with everything. I always focus on the why we can get things done, why we can do this. I tell my daughters this story. 2 women walk into a car dealership. One goes in to buy a car, the other goes in to buy the entire dealership. Now, if they both get what they want, so too will their life results differ. And, I teach my kids, you're going in there to buy the dealership. You walk into every situation with a can-do attitude, and you go in there with the expectation that you're going to get what it is that you want. And boy, when you walk in the room and you've got a fire in your eye like that, and you believe that, hey, I'm going to get what I want, then you'd be surprised at the results that you get. It's truly amazing. And it sucks that I had to go through all these different life experiences to build an attitude like that, but I don't think you have to go through experiences like that or have a bunch of negative things happen to you to turn you into a super positive person. I think it's just a decision. I think we just either decide to be positive or negative. We control this. We control what goes in this. Do you know why wealthy people don't listen to classical music? Classical music is always attributed to people who are successful and wealthy. Do you know why? Because they understand that what goes in, thoughts become things. And what goes in here can directly dictate the results that you get in your life. So you sit around and listen to music that's derogatory or negative. You're putting those negative thoughts and ideas into your head. And what do you get for results in your life? Inevitably those things go in there and they're there. It's permanent. This brain remembers everything that goes into it. So we want to make sure to put the most positive information, the most positive things into our mind, and it can build incredibly positive results. I'm telling you, you can overcome anything in your life. If I can overcome what I've been through, you can overcome whatever it is you're going through, and I think we can work together on that. So this video has been going for quite some time now, and I'm gonna come back tomorrow, and I'm gonna talk about some different things and some new things. I just wanted you to actually meet me and understand where I'm coming from. It's been an incredible ride up until now. I hope over these 30 days we grow together. You start learning how to maybe get some better results in your life, and things turn around. Things can turn on a dime. They absolutely can. You can go from negative to positive like that. If you want to change your life, all you have to do is change your life. That's it. It's as easy as that. There's a process and there's other things that we can do to support that, but I'm telling you, thoughts do become things. You think positive, you're going to get positive. And, we just need to, I'm getting way ahead of myself here. We just need to stay positive, and you can do it, and I believe in you, and trust me, I'll be back tomorrow to talk about some other things. I'm going to keep coming back, and I'm going to keep sharing, and I hope we grow together. So I'm going to wish you a wonderful day, and hey, I'll see you tomorrow. It's the weekend, so we're going to have a great day today. I'm taking my wife up to the mountains, my kids. We're going to go for a ride. Yesterday we got snow here in Colorado. Yay! Today it's going to be 70 degrees, so it's all gone. We drove home yesterday from Denver in a snowstorm. Today it's sunny, and we just kind of thought maybe we need to go up into the mountains to some elevation and enjoy whatever's left of that snowstorm that went through yesterday, because pretty soon everything is going to be beautiful and green. It's just going to be an amazing spring this year with all the moisture we've gotten. So we're looking forward to that. I think you can look forward to having a great day too. Just take a minute and think about what it is that could be really great about this day. Don't focus on the negative at all. I want you just to have positive thoughts for the next 10, 15 minutes. Don't think anything negative. I tell you what, if you're negative and in a negative spot, there's two things you can do. One, it's nearly impossible to be negative while you're smiling, so smile. And the other thing that my kids do when they're negative is they whistle. And it's really hard to keep negative thoughts in your mind while you're whistling. People who whistle are happy. So let's be happy today. I'm going to have a fantastic day with my family. I want you to have a fantastic day with yours. And I'll be back tomorrow. It's going to be great. So listen, I hope you have a wonderful day. Thanks for taking your time this morning to interact with me. And thanks for listening to my story. I never tell that story. I don't like to focus on it. And it was tough for me to talk about. But I'm glad that I did. I feel better. And I'm glad I shared with you. So I hope you have a wonderful day. Thanks, my friends. Take care. Bye.